Okay, this podcast is going to get us started on our look at hereditary or Mendelian genetics, named after Gregor Mendel. This is where we are going to look at the hereditary patterns that we commonly see in living things. And in order to look at the hereditary patterns, the first place we need to look is meiosis, which is what creates many of the hereditary patterns we see in the way that genes appear in different generations of living things. So, let's go ahead and get us started. Before we talk about what meiosis is, we really should emphasize what it is not. And it is definitely not mitosis. Meiosis and mitosis look frustratingly similar. The machinery, many of the processes look a lot alike, but the goals, the end results of these processes are completely different. They could not be more different. Well, at any rate, the point, let's talk about the point of these two processes. The point of mitosis is to create essentially clones, identical cells that are identical to the original parent cell that gave rise to them, and cells that are genetically identical to each other. Okay, so identical cells, clones. Meiosis, completely different. The goal inherently is to create cells that have half the chromosome number of the parent cell, half the genes. That by definition is not identical. You have half the genetic information that your parent had, and more important, or as importantly, you may not have exactly the same genes in you as another cell, your sibling cell created by meiosis, may have. So you're different from each other as well. So meiosis, the goal fundamentally is variety, creating cells that are genetically different from each other, whereas the goal for mitosis is to create cells that are genetically identical to each other. Very, very different processes. Okay, so the roles that these processes play in living things are different as well. Mitosis is basically when we need to make exact copies of cells that we had, and we need to make more of them. So tissue repair, you injure your tissue, you want to replace it, you're going to do mitosis. Growth, you started as a single zygote and you became more cells until you became you. By mitosis, all your cells in your body, your skin cells may be different from your brain cells, but they are all genetic clones of each other. Genetically, they're identical. What genes are working and or turned off in cells are different, and that makes your cells look and act different. But genetically, they're clones because they were created by mitosis from your zygote. Another use of mitosis is asexual reproduction, reproduction with no sex. If you are a tiny amoeba, there is no sex for you. You are a single-celled organism, and if you want to reproduce, you have to say, oh, time to reproduce, and you essentially go through mitosis, divide yourself in half, and each baby gets an identical copy of your genes. They look just like you, they look just like each other. Okay? Meiosis, on the other hand, is used for one thing only, and that is sexual reproduction. And more specifically, it is used for preparation for sexual reproduction. Preparation for sex means creating the cells that will engage in sex, which means creating sperm and egg. That's what meiosis is. The end result of meiosis is creating sperm cells and egg cells that will eventually engage in sexual reproduction. That said, mitosis and meiosis, of course, occur in really different places. Mitosis is going to occur It can occur anywhere in your body. Skin is a great place to think about, but anywhere where some growth needs to occur, tissue repair needs to occur, mitosis will happen. Okay? So essentially we think of normal body cells is where mitosis would occur. We can also call these kinds of normal body cells somatic cells, okay? Whereas in meiosis, this occurs in one place and one place only, and that is in the reproductive organs. That would be in females, the ovaries, and males, the testes. That's it. Nowhere else. There will be no meiosis happening in your arm today, okay? Only ovaries, only testes, never anywhere else, okay? And by the way, well, that's all we need to say about that for now. All right. Now, some additional words I need to put on you. The words diploid and haploid. These are referring to the number of sets of chromosomes you have in your cells. Diploid, di, means two. So diploid is referring to having two sets of chromosomes in a cell. Now, two sets, why would you have two sets of chromosomes in a cell? Well, because originally you got one set of chromosomes from who? Your dad, and you also got one set from your mom. They came together and made two sets in you, in your zygote, and all of your cells that you have in your body are genetic clones of that. So the vast majority of the cells in our bodies are diploid because they are cloned from that original zygote that got two sets of genes, one from mom, one from dad. In meiosis, we are going to divide this diploid cell and it's going to become haploid, and what that means is it's going to have in the end only one set of chromosomes, only one set of genes, okay? One set of genes, one set of chromosomes, and this will be either a sperm or an egg depending on if you were a male or female, okay? So diploid to haploid means in meiosis we are going to go from having a cell with two sets of chromosomes to a cell having one set of chromosomes. In a human specifically, this means you will have a cell that has 46 total chromosomes. Why 46? Well, because you originally got 23 chromosomes from your mom and you got 23 chromosomes from your dad, which means you got a zygote that had a total of 46. Well, when you go to make sperm or egg, whatever you're going to make, you will have sperm or egg that have 23 chromosomes. We're going to go from being a diploid cell to being haploid cells. Two sets to one set again. Okay? This is showing you what is called a karyotype. It is a photograph of a person's chromosomes. Okay? These chromosomes have been organized by a person a geneticist who understands chromosomes. They are stained. The chromosomes are stained in particular ways. Banding patterns, as you can see, show up on the chromosomes by looking at their size and banding patterns. Geneticists can recognize a certain chromosome pair that is called chromosome pair number 1, chromosome pair number 2, number 3, and these are standardized for every for humans. All humans have a chromosome pair 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you can see there are 22 total pairs plus this funky pair that would be a 23rd pair, but it's not numbered. We'll talk about that later. But what I want to talk about right now is what's up with these pairs, okay? Why is this a pair and this a pair and this a pair? Well, it's pairs because guess where you got one of these from? If this is one of your body cells, maybe this chromosome came from your mom and this one came from your dad. Over here, maybe this one came from dad and this one came from mom. You got 23, if we count this one, total pairs, And for each pair, your mom would have given you one chromosome, your dad would have given you the other one. So she sent one set of 23, and dad sent the other set of 23, and so you have, if you count them all, 46 total. But they are arranged in pairs, just like pairs of shoes, and mom would have given you one shoe and dad gave you the other shoe, so that you end up with 23 pairs of shoes, or 46 shoes total. Okay? Now, these pairs are what we call homologous, meaning the pairs are similar, but they're not identical. Let's talk about this. So you got 23 from mom, 23 from dad. Let's go back here. So let's look at some pair I haven't scribbled all over. Let's look at this pair. Okay? Right here. Let's say that the gene that determines eye color is on this chromosome. Okay? So let's say you got this one from dad, and the gene for eye color is right here, and maybe dad gave you the gene for blue eye color. Well, mom, on her homologous pair, on her chromosome number 4, she has a gene for eye color too, but maybe she didn't send for blue eyes. Maybe she doesn't have blue eyes. Her color is brown, so maybe she sent you the gene for brown eye color. So this pair of chromosomes is similar in that they both code for eye color, but they're a little different because dad codes for blue, mom codes for brown. So that's what homologous means. These chromosome pairs are similar. They're going to code for the same basic thing, but they're not identical. They might have different eye colors on them. Okay? So 23 homologous pairs, which is again what we're seeing here, is 23 homologous pairs, one for mom, one for dad, for each member of the pair. Similar but not identical for 46 total chromosomes. Okay? Mom gave you 23, dad gave you 23. Okay? Now, this last bullet, please note that every one of your body cells, your normal body cells, has 46 chromosomes. Even the cells in your ovaries and testes have 46 chromosomes in them. It's just that at some point, the cells in your ovaries or testes are going to do something that cells in your skin are never ever going to do. At some point, cells in your ovaries or testes will decide that they have to divide by meiosis and cut their chromosome number in half. Okay? They're going to decide that they've got to cut that chromosome number in half. Only cells that exist in your ovaries and testes will do that. No cells in your arm, no cells in your brain, no cells anywhere else. Okay? Meiosis is only for sexual reproduction. Okay? Now, I do need to throw some more words at you. The word autosome means all of the regular chromosomes. Okay? There are 44 of them, 22 pairs of them, and they are all homologous, meaning they all look basically similar, very subtle differences between them, brown eyes versus blue eyes, genes, something like that. There are also sex chromosomes, but there's only one pair of those. So note, 22 pairs of autosomes, but only one pair of sex chromosomes. And in a female, the pair of sex chromosomes are 2 chromosomes that are homologous, and they are called X's, X chromosomes. This has got really nothing to do with, just that's what they're called. They look like DNA molecules just like all other chromosomes do. They're just called X chromosomes, and they're homologous. They're similar. If a female with 2 X's has a gene here that codes for a blood protein, the gene over here is going to be coding for a similar blood protein. They might not be identical, but they're the same basic gene. Males, however, do not have homologous sex chromosomes. They have one X chromosome like the female, but they also have a chromosome that is called the Y. And if you'll notice, it is much, much smaller. It codes for almost nothing except for what makes a male, very few genes present on the Y. The genes on the X code for tons of things that may not be related to femaleness at all. There's genes related to blood clotting proteins, to muscle growth, all kinds of things that are completely unrelated to sex, whereas the Y is pretty much only related to sex. Okay? So, this is a karyotype before it's a karyotype. This is a picture of a squash of human chromosomes, photograph taken of this nucleus as it's just been kind of splatted out onto a microscope slide. The photograph would be cut up by a geneticist and placed in order, and what we see here are these 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 22 pairs, whoops, there we go, of autosomes, all homologous, and 1 pair of sex chromosomes. And it's 2 X's down there, so that would be a human female karyotype. This is a typical human female. Now, if we look here at this squash of chromosomes and we organize them, what we see, again, 22 autosomes, 22 pairs of autosomes, but the sex chromosomes are not homologous. They are an X and a Y. So this is a male. Okay? Now, let's go on with our talk of meiosis. How do we make sperm and egg? Well, in the ovaries or testes, there are normal body cells that have 46 chromosomes, 23 homologous pairs, okay, 46 total. If we want to make sperm or egg from these, we have to cut that chromosome number in half, okay? So this body cell in the ovary would cut its chromosome number in half and create egg cells that had in each of them 23 chromosomes instead. In a male, in the testes, these cells would divide and create cells that had only 23 chromosomes, just like the egg. Then those gametes would fuse during fertilization and create a zygote, which would be a new individual, okay, with the correct number of chromosomes. It should be obvious why we've got to have meiosis if we want to have sexual reproduction. If we're not interested in sex, then we can just make copies of ourselves all day long. But if we want to mix up these genes and get a new combination right here, then we've got to cut the chromosome number in half. Because if we don't, 46 plus 46 gives us 92. That's not good. So if we want an offspring that's got the right genetic complement, then we've got to cut the chromosome number in half and then recombine at fertilization.